those joining me live and to those who'll be joining me on archive, hit the like button if you're listening on the archive. And we're being joined by our guest of the evening, and of course, my co-host Calix here, Joel Iriarte. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Close enough. Joel Iriarte.
I'm sure you hear Iriarte and stuff like that often, but hey, man, thanks for being here. First of all, as you're watching the highlights of like these legends fighting, like, do you dream about that stuff? Have you thought about that? Like being in these fights that people are going to be talking about for years and years to come. While you're watching that, do you imagine yourself like being part of all that?
Yeah, well, no, first of all, I want to thank you guys for, having me on the show, pleasure to be on the show with you guys. And I mean, looking at the highlights, I do think to myself, one day, God willing, I'd love to be on that stage, under those lights, it's every kid's dream, I feel like. So yeah, I definitely see myself at, at that stage, at that level.
All right. You say it's every kid's dream. Now, I want to go back a little bit, just so the audience is, and ourselves could get to know you a little bit. So when did you start watching boxing? And when did you decide that you wanted to start boxing?
Yeah, so, at a young age, I started boxing when I was 5. So I've always had a little, boxing's always caught my attention. I grew up in a Hispanic, household, so boxing is pretty big. And I feel like, watching the fights, being around the big fights when Pacquiao was fighting, watching the old fights, old school fighters, I feel like I developed a passion for boxing. It was like my calling. And it's just more of a passion that grew on me at that age. And I feel like once I started, it was like, like breathing. It came second nature. So, it's always been the passion of mine.
Okay.
Now, you have quite the amateur background. Can you explain to people what your accolades, accomplishments are on the amateur circuit?
Yeah. So, so I've been boxing I'm 20 years old. I've been boxing for 15 years. I started you're eligible to fight at 8 years old. So it's been a journey, man. It's been one hell of a journey for sure, and it's only getting started. But yeah, I started fighting when I was 8. I have over 300 amateur fights, 17 national titles, 3 international medals, 2 gold, 1 bronze, Pan American Games. I've been on the USA team for 4 years consecutively. And it's been a journey of mine, a dream of mine also to, you start boxing and you see the Olympics, you hear the Olympic team, and it's always been a dream of mine to be at that level, to, achieve 1 national, 2 nationals, now standing with 17 nationals and a couple international medals, being at the caliber that I am now. It's been small achievements that I've been, obtaining, and it's been, a dream of mine to be where I'm at. So I'm very, very happy, and I am continue to work hard to, grow in boxing, grow as a person, and just get better, be the best athlete I could be the best boxer I could be, and the best human being. So we're working.
That's good. Now you have a lot of fights, over 300 amateur fights. I wanted to ask you about this because I was looking over your resume. One of your recent fights was against a guy that I'll speak for myself, I'm high on, and a lot of people think are going to go far in boxing, Abdullah Mason. Mm-hmm. Can you speak on that fight? How did that fight go? Because he's a serious talent.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely tip my hat off to him. He's getting the job done. He's doing pretty good in his professional career. I can only say so much. I've seen him on some of the fights, but I also, I know nothing against him or anything. I think he's doing great. I feel like it was a pretty good fight. It was a pretty close fight. It was a very technical fight. I think, it could have the circumstances could have been different. The outcome could have been different, but we're here to learn, we're here to grow, and that's what we're doing. I feel like I'm a different fighter now. The fight would definitely go different now. I'm a lot stronger, I'm a lot faster, I'm a lot smarter as well. So I feel like, we're doing our ends as boxers to make it in our own path. And that's what I have to say about that.
Look, there's big decisions always happen in boxing. So it's a big decision to say, okay, you know what? It's time to go pro now. But what led to you making that decision to go pro?
So like I said, I feel like we're at a point where my amateur career is kind of, where I wanted it to be. I've grown so much. I've learned so much. I've achieved so much. And me and my dad have been working hard. I train 3 times a day. My physique, I stay in shape. I don't get fat, right? For me, it's a lifestyle. And I feel like that's also what sets me apart, my discipline. Training as hard as I do, and sparring the caliber that I have, been sparring and training like this, I feel like I've done what I can in the amateurs, and the next step is, the next best decision for me and my team. So that's where I'm at.
Now, you don't sound like the typical 20-year-old we
Right.
talked to a lot of guys. You seem wise beyond your years. Is your dad your trainer? I think you just alluded to that. Is he still your trainer? Are you moving to another trainer? How is that going to work?
No. So my dad, yeah, he's been my trainer. He's my second trainer. My first trainer, I unfortunately passed away. Everything right there. But my dad took over, and yeah, he's been my trainer since I've been 11 years old. I have all my national titles with him, and I feel like that father-son connection is always big role, big part of boxing, a big part of the young prospects growing up, having their dad in the corner, no matter what it is. Having that father figure around is important. So me and my dad have a fantastic connection inside and outside of the ring, which I feel like is also an advantage to us. To me performing the way I've been, and which is great. I feel like I love my dad. He's my best friend. He sacrifices so much. And me being able to perform the way I do and achieve what I've done, is only just a little bit of what I, hope to accomplish and repay to him. So, that's my dad.
Okay. So there's 2 things with that. So one, when you hear, I don't know if you have heard, like guys like Timothy Bradley, and there's been others that have come out and said that they don't feel fathers should be the trainers of their sons in professional boxing. What is your opinion about that, or a response to something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I could see where it could be controversial. I feel like for me, I've never had an issue with my dad. There's always like that little kid and the dad thing where my dad should only be my dad. And it gets into some issues inside and outside of the the gym. I feel like I can see where there could be issues, but as long as you know how to separate the two and focus when you're supposed to focus, and be responsible, be disciplined when you're in the gym, and have that level-headed mindset when you're in the gym, and then after, well, you can let it go. But I feel like as long as you're able to separate the two, to be disciplined, to keep consistent and not mix the two, and let it be ugly outside of the gym, and for it to relay at home or vice versa. You have little issues at home and then it translates into the gym. I feel like that's where it could get a little messy. But as long as you're able to be focused, train hard in the gym, and you guys have that connection and you're able to communicate, I feel like that's that's the biggest part.
So one of the main things or criticisms I hear fans, pundits, even other fighters sometimes say is that they feel the fathers are living vicariously through their sons, right, in the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
However, maybe there's another side that we don't get, right? Like the sacrifices that the father makes for his son, for example. What is it that maybe people from the outside looking in don't understand what has your father sacrificed to help you get to where you are?
Yeah. I definitely see that. For me, I can see where they're just like, my dad just kind of living his dream through me. And, maybe it could be, maybe it's not. Me and my dad have the conversation where he's like, at the end of the day, this sport is brutal. It's brutal on your body. It's brutal for everything. I honestly wouldn't even like to see my son, get punched in the face or cut 10 pounds in a day, or just, kind of suffer a little bit, but you know, it's the sport, and I'm doing it also because, you know, I love the sport, my passion for it. So, you know, he kind of leaves it in my hands, right, where that kind of cancels out that part for me as a person. But your second question was, apart from the dream between the dad, what was the second part you mentioned?
Well, that's pretty much it. You kind of answered it, but but also, I guess the part. I'm sorry that what are some of the sacrifices that a father, since your father trains you, right? So you're a fighter, so you have that perspective that we don't. Like, what sacrifices does a father of a fighter make in this journey?
Yeah, 100%. Well, in the amateurs, you know, we don't get anything paid for us. We don't get paid, so it's obviously out of pocket. Most of it is out of pocket or fundraised. My dad, for me, is, you know, for me, I owe him my life because he sacrifices so much every day. He travels from Bakersfield to San Fernando every single day, which he commutes, which is 100 miles. He commutes every day. He wakes up at 2:30 a.m. and he's back at 5 p.m. and still trains me. Right, so he's up training me my 2.5 hours. He doesn't sleep until around 9:30, and then he's back up at 2:30. Right, and this is every single day that he does this. So for me, you know, that's obviously a big commitment, a big sacrifice that he does, you know, to also provide for his family, to help me out in my journey, and you know, for him to be my coach apart from, you know, my dad, and sacrificing all that he does. It's all recognized. You know, I recognize all of it. I see all his hard work, his efforts, and I think that's super important, right? That's a little bit of drive, a little bit of motivation to, you know, continue. If he's, you know, killing it, doing, you know, what he's doing, you know, I should be, you know, I should focus on doing better for myself. If, you know, he's sacrificing, he's putting in the hard work, the discipline, the long hours, and he's pulling through for so long. He's done it since I've been born. So he's got 20 years doing the same commute every single day. And, you know, I feel like, you know, he shows consistency, all his sacrifice, which, you know, it kind of reflects on me and my characteristics.
Can you explain your fighting style to people who haven't seen you fight yet?
I would love for, you know, also the people to see me fight, you know, when I make the pro debut or whatever it is. I feel like I've grown so much that I let the people decide when they see me. And for me, what they tell me, what they give me is that it's a little bit of everything, right? I'm 6'1". I fight at 140 pounds, and I can do it all, right? So I can box the socks off, but I'm also, you know, that Hispanic Mexican little brawler, right? So I like to, you know, slug inside when I have to. I can box. I have a great boxing IQ, so I could do both of them, right? I'm speed, I'm powerful. I could put both of them together. I have, you know, tremendous jab, but also a tremendous left hook, right? So it's a little bit of everything. It's very, very entertaining to watch, and I feel like everyone's gonna love it. You know, love to see my style. You know, in the future.
And when is this pro debut supposed to happen? Any word?
So no words, no date yet, but it's coming soon. You know, I would love for everyone to just, you know, continue to watch my journey and, you know, watch to see what I'm coming with. So yeah, that's to be announced.
Do you have an idea where it's going to be?
No location yet. No location yet. No day. Yeah.
All right.
Is it going to be like a California type thing, or is there going to be a Mexico circuit? I know some guys take the Mexico circuit. Any ideas on that either?
So I mean, not that it will be the how can I say, it's not going to be the traditional, you know, Mexico circuit that we're going to do, but, you know, the location, they might be in Mexico, it might be in, you know, California, but it's just depending on you know, what they say.
Sweet.
Are you signed with a promoter at the moment?
No, not yet. I'm a free agent.
Free agent. Okay.
Work, yeah.
Do you know what promoter it might be that you're going to make your pro debut with?
So, you know, fortunately, we've been, you know, talking with a couple of them, and they are, you know, pretty interested. So we're honestly just kind of talking amongst ourselves what's going to be the best decision for us, for our team, you know, because it's obviously going to be a pretty good commitment to that. So we're just kind of making sure we do the right steps, the right decisions, and you know, to go in with full efforts, full force forward. Yeah.
Okay. All right. How do you see your? And I know it's very early to say, and you're young. There's no rush, but how do you see your trajectory? Like how long, 5 years maybe or so before you see yourself maybe fighting for a world title?
I can, I would love to make it sooner than that, right? For sure.
Okay.
It's just a thing of my team. They think I'm ready for, a world title in the next year or so, right? But obviously we're going to take things, for what it is. No rushing it, right? I'm still very young. I still have, a lot of developing, a lot of growing to do mentally in the ring at the professional stage. So, we're just going to take it step by step. We're not going to baby it either, right? We're not trying to look for, those 20-0, 25, 30-0s, and then not nothing entertaining, not anything. So, we're definitely trying to have a good rhythm, have a good pace, and then aim for that world title in the next, maybe 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it may be. But, we're not gonna baby it either.
Okay.
6'1", 140 pounder. That's quite. Are you squeezing down to 140? Or are you comfortably making that?
Honestly, when was it? When I fought on the Pan Ams, we fight 138 pounds for days, right? For days, a couple days at a time. So it's nothing that's not, manageable. I'm not gonna say it's the easiest ever either, but I feel like for every fighter, they make the sacrifice. They cut down what they have to cut down, in order to get to that weight class. But 140-pound world title, 147 world title, 150, world title, 60, and climbing that ladder is also a dream of mine. So I also put in the work to be that 5 division world champion at, and not just the lighter weights, right? We're looking at the bigger weights, junior welterweight, up until who knows, cruiserweight, right? So
oh wow. So you're trying to catch up to Canelo before he retires?
Hey, yeah, it's the goal, man. If it happens, that would be interesting.
Hold on, I'm on my way.
Slow down.
Well, if you're looking at less than 5 years, it's possible. But I mean, one step at a time, of course. Let's see about 140. If look, there's a lot to look at with boxing here, right? So let's talk about your spar. Like, who are some of the guys so we have like an idea that you've been working with or sparring with recently?
Yeah, so I mean, recently, not too long ago, I was sparring with the guy that just fought Dalton Smith, right? He was up there. I've sparred with great fighters, Castaño, Jose Ramirez, who was up there. I sparred a while back in the Olympic Center with Shakur, Murataya, Lindolfo, Tanajara, all these guys, right? Pretty big names that I get some work in there with. I can't remember that's what I have off the top of my head, but I get pretty good sparring, whatever's in California. Anytime there's some guys out here, I'm sparring them, getting quality sparring. So, that's always good. I'm very content with my sparring.
Let me ask you this. Very random, but I'm curious. Rolly Romero, you think you could beat him right now?
Okay, I don't like to be, that's not my trait, but I do see myself getting the better of him.
Okay. He put it nicely, just there you go. But hey, so look, there's less than 5 years is a tall task because we've seen fighters that wait a lot longer than that, but we also seen the fast track. So we're going to see it all depends how you look in your first few fights. I do see that I was reading a boxing scene article. You signed with a management that also has Pacheco. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you worked with Pacheco at all or met him or anything?
Yeah, that's my boy.
Okay.
We're working together. We've been together. We've known each other since the amateurs, right? His trainers, my trainers, they're all very close. So, we're just kind of working together, helping each other out in the best way we can. And he's kind of mentioned me going out because he trains out of Seattle. So he's mentioned me heading out there to help him out with some sparring because he also thinks he's seen me spar, he's seen me train, and he thinks that, even though I'm pretty light, that I'll give him tremendous, quality work. So, it's definitely. We're definitely going to make that probably happen here come soon.
Okay. All right. Seattle, Washington. Interesting. Well, look, hopefully we will get some news about your debut. Hopefully it's televised wherever it is, right?
Yeah.
Look, it's a good time to become a pro because nowadays most of the fights are somewhere where before it was what it was. But hopefully it'll be on either TV, one of these apps or something, so people should be able to see it. Where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, they can follow me at Joel Iriarte and then little underscore at the end. So that'll be JoelIriarte and then the little underscore. So
Okay, that's on Instagram, correct?
that's on Instagram, yes, sir. And that's kind of that's the only thing I'm on right now. Just Instagram. Yes, sir.
So no Twitter with all the old guys, huh? No Twitter.
No Twitter, no Twitter.
Stay off of it. Stay off of it.
Well, it is what it is. If fighters argue there all the time, by the way, but it is what it is. But look, give me your 3 favorite fighters of all time.
Of all time, big fan. Number 1, big fan. Ricardo Finito Lopez, right?
Okay.
Tremendous fighter. One of my favorite fighters. Classic fighters. Salvador Sanchez, another great, right? Love the style. And then we'll go with the pretty current fighter. We'll say Lomachenko. He's pretty current, and I think he, he had a tremendous different style. He was a tremendous fighter. Did everything as well, boxer. He was able to had a tremendous IQ, and I think that he was a very well-rounded fighter. So those are my top 3.
Okay. Now we have some big fights coming, and we'll just get your prediction on those. Crawford or Spence? So who are you rolling with?
I'm gonna roll with Crawford, man. I'm gonna roll with Crawford. I think that people, when you hear Crawford Spence, you'll hear like, I think Spence could get, I think Spence could take it, right? But that's always a could take it. So we're gonna probably roll with Crawford. I think he's probably the favorite right now, and I think he's just a little bit different. He's gonna get the better of him. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, did you spar with Muratalla too? Ray Muratalla?
Yes, sir.
Now, how was he? Because I talked to a guy he fought on a guy named Jeremy Hill down here who fought on the Regis Prograis undercard, and he lost to Muratalla last year, and he said he's a beast. How was sparring with him?
Yeah, beast. He's very tricky. He's smart as well. Has stiff punches. They're very, very stiff. So, great fighter. I think he has, a lot of good things coming from him. Tip my hat off to him for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have one more question for you. You're Hispanic, as you mentioned, right? So, but you also said, I stay in shape and all that. But when you do decide to, I guess, have a cheat meal or whatever, what's your favorite meal to have? What's your, if I'm going to
go-to?
What's that?
My go-to cheat meal, bro. I love enchiladas, bro. I love enchiladas, sweet sauce, right, with the chipotle cream, a little bit of cheese on there, with all prepared and nice.
What's a little bit of cheese? I guess
definitely a lot of cheese.
Okay,
it's a nice amount of cheese.
A lot of cheese.
For that, and then big fan of choco flan.
Okay.
It's that little flan with that chocolate cake on top. Oh my gosh.
Damn.
Fantastic. Definitely don't get enough of that.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. So hopefully that's why he's talking about moving up. He's like, I want to get 140 out of the way. I want to start eating enchiladas, man. Like,
a little cheese.
With a little bit of cheese, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of cheese.
Oh man, hey, this has been great. It's glad to have you on. Hope to have you back on in the future for sure. And
we'll be watching.
Anything you want to say to everybody watching right now before we let you go?
100%. If they click the video, super grateful for them to spend the time and get to hear a little bit of what I have to say. Hopefully they keep on watching my journey. Continue to support, continue to stay interested. And we're coming. We're gonna make those interesting fights. We're gonna make those entertaining fights, make the fights that people want to see. So yeah, we'll make it happen. Yes, sir.
There we go. You have a good one.
My Hispanic family. I mean, all the all my Mexicans. To stay tuned. Ahí vamos con todo, and we're ready to make it happen. Make that pro debut.
Hey, what's about to give a speech in Spanish? Look at that.
Hey.
There you go. You could if you want. Anything you want to shout out in Spanish?
Quiero mandar un saludo para mi gente de Sinaloa, Mi gente de Sinaloa, de Tres Reyes, somos de un rancho ahí en Tres Reyes. Un saludo, vamos con todo. Estamos listos para lo que venga y con todo.
All right, there you go.
Here comes soon. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have a good one, brother.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
you.
Nice. Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate
Good luck
you.
to you.
Well, there you go, guys. There you go, Calix. You know what I
I
mean?
like him. I like
That's
him.
absolutely.
Be following him
Good kid.
close. And he's got
All
good
right.
sparring, great sparring, actually, the type of names coming up. And then I noticed that Abdullah Mason and Santiago said he put him down early in that fight, Abdullah Mason. So
Did he?
he's a guy with, you can tell when he talks. And that's why I brought it up. That's why I said, you're a guy who sounds wise for your years at 20 years old. Not too many 20-year-olds are walking around talking like that these days. And you can tell he's got a head on his shoulders. So I'm looking forward to that.
20-year-olds today are like, they don't even know how to color with crayons or eating them. You know what I mean? So the fact that boxing is producing 20-year-old boxers is still astonishing to me. At this age, you know, it's this, right?
I think he's going places though. You can tell.
Yeah, for sure. Got to tune in to the 121st edition of Hispanics, Causin, Panic. A lot to talk about, so let's just dive right into it, Calix. First of all, I'm going to start with Paulie Malignaggi. All right? Paulie, Canelo ruins everything. Malignaggi. Okay? I mean, look, he ruined not one but two fights. He ruined two. All right, he ruined the Benavidez fight, and he ruined the Jermell, Tim Tszyu fight. He ruined two. Like he's very, very angry. He's very upset. All right, he's saying there's weight class for a reason. There's weight class for a reason. These fans don't understand. There's weight class for a reason. We know, Paulie. There's weight class for a reason, brother. All right. What do you make of it? I mean, I have my thoughts, but I want to start with you. What are your thoughts?
So with Paulie, what I've learned is there are certain fighters, and look, I like Paulie. I'm a fan. I was a fan of his career for the most part because I think he maximized his potential. He talked his way into fights, right? He was a tough fighter, pillow-fisted, but tough fighter. And on top of that, I liked him as a commentator at Showtime, and I wish he would end up somewhere. So I say that to say I'm pretty complimentary of Paulie Malignaggi, but what I've learned is there are certain fighters, when it comes to Malignaggi, you can't listen to his opinion. For whatever reason, he starts off not liking this guy, and he's not going to be able to like that guy going forward. He's going to bend the truth around that guy. Manny Pacquiao was the first with that. Manny Pacquiao, you cannot listen to Paulie Malignaggi's opinion on Pacquiao because he was just never going to be complimentary on Pacquiao. The next one was Devin Haney. It was so much so that he's making up false rumors the night of the fight, after the fight, saying he's already signed a long-term deal with Top Rank going forward. But he can't. When it comes to Devin Haney, he can't be impartial with that either. And the next one is Canelo. He's just one of those guys, D-style. Whatever Canelo does, if he goes this way, it's going to be wrong. He goes that way, it's going to be wrong. He just can't be impartial when it comes to Canelo. And he was going to find something wrong with whoever Canelo picks. Now, when it comes to the weight class jump, guys have done it before. And on top of that, Jermell has a better chance betting odds than Jermall did. That's just facts. So I'm sure a lot of people would have been fine with the Jermall fight that aren't fine with Jermell, which doesn't make much sense to me because Jermell actually has a better chance
fighter, right?
In the fight. He's a better fighter. But when it comes to the weight
for a reason, you said.
Yes, and I know you have an opinion on that, I'm sure, with and you can go ahead with that, but guys have done this, and on top of that, Canelo's done this. Canelo jumped up 2 weight classes to fight Kovalev, and without rehydration clauses, without a catch weight. So it's not like this hasn't been done before. It's been done in big fights.
Hey, Remy said what it could. I'm not aware of any response that Canelo gave. If you guys have it, you can give it to me. But
I don't
I'm
think
not aware.
Canelo's gonna respond.
I don't think Canelo cares or knows. He's probably golfing right now or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he comes out publicly and pushes back on a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're not putting into proper perspective why this fight's happening, as opposed to some of the other PBC fighters.
He ruined 2 fights, he said. We were not getting the Benavidez fight, and we're not getting the Tim Tszyu fight. It's all Canelo's fault. He ruins everything. You know, like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, everything. You know, a fighter 2 weight classes below you, moving, like, how can you possibly ask a guy or fight a guy that's going to move up not 1, but 2 weight classes to fight you for a championship? Well, I don't know if you guys remember, Paulie Malignaggi fought Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner was not 1, but 2 weight classes below Paulie Malignaggi. Mm-hmm. And Paulie Malignaggi not only fought Adrian Broner, he lost to Adrian Broner. And I believe he's one of maybe 2 wins Broner has above 140 pounds. Okay.
Yep.
So, like, at the end of the day, and I tweeted this out, right? Doing all this complaining when you did the same thing. And I get the typical responses, Calix. Every time. Oh, but we expect more of Canelo than Paulie Malignaggi. Well, I mean, that's a factual statement, by the way. But Canelo's going to fight a unified, proven, undisputed champion. A guy that we were told should be in the pound for pound list.
Yeah.
Pound for pound fighters should be able to move up and fight. When Paulie fought Adrian Broner, Broner was not a unified champion. He was definitely not, much less an undisputed champion, right? And Broner was nowhere near as proven as Jermell Charlo. So if the standard is higher for Canelo, well, it is higher. The opponent is a better opponent than Paulie fought and lost to already. But the point yet still stands. You cannot criticize a fighter for fighting somebody 2 weight classes below him if you did the same thing yourself, right? You could move the goalposts. You could bring up the whole, but I expect more out of Canelo. And okay, whatever you say, right? And here's another fact for you. Canelo's been the smaller guy, Calix, for every fight since the Khan fight. He's been the smaller guy for every single one. Mm-hmm. So I just don't understand what all this pushback is, or why people want to just create narratives like Paulie, right, to bash this fight. And here's the thing: if Paulie's genuine opinion is that he wanted to see Benavidez versus Canelo and Tim Tszyu versus Jermell, I wanted to see those fights too, quite frankly, right? That's fine. And if you want to place blame, go ahead. But this idea that you're not going to place any blame on Jermell if you're actually mad about it, Jermell's the one that's going to, he has to agree to the fight. Jermell has to agree to it, bro. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, and Paulie was solidified at welterweight before Broner moved up. He fought there a handful of times already. He fought there a handful of times already. So, and he ended up losing the fight. And I thought Paulie fought good in the fight, to be honest. That's why I'm saying this isn't coming from any hatred for me, because I like Paulie overall. I think he's a net positive. I think he's a very good commentator when it comes to boxing. But there are certain guys, and that's the frustration for me, is I think he's too good to be doing this stuff. He's too good to be trolling this way, because it's obvious that's what he's doing with certain fighters. He did it with Pacquiao. He's doing it with Haney, and he's doing it with Canelo. For whatever reason, I think he sees that it gets a certain type of reaction, and he keeps going with it. And he just can't call a spade when it comes to those certain fighters. And we've talked about that thing that Canelo hating gets more clicks than Canelo adulation when it comes to YouTube. That's just a fact. So I think a lot of people are trying to jump on that wave.
Yeah, we also have this weird trend going on where 1 week they love Canelo, some content creators. 1 week Canelo's the greatest shit ever, right? His shit don't stink. The next week, all Canelo's ducking. He's a cherry pick. The next week, all Canelo and Al Heyman are bosses. And then the week after that, it's like, oh, well, Canelo, did he cherry pick? Is he avoiding fights? Is he like? I mean, word from the wise, ladies and gentlemen. Flip-flopping week after week on an opinion doesn't make you neutral. It makes you inconsistent.
Yeah.
Okay? There's a difference between inconsistent and flip-floppy and neutral. When things are objectively true, or from our perspective are objectively true, they're just objectively true. Right? So that's just the way it is at the end of the day.
Let me ask
Remy
you
wants to know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Remy wants to know what would Canelo, what would his response be, right, to Paulie? You know, look, let me tell you, Canelo, you ruined everything. I mean, let me tell you something. Okay, first of all, Adrian Broner never took my girl. Okay, that's number one. She was my side piece. Okay, that's number one. Everybody knows what weekend side piece is. It's weekend pussy. Okay, so he didn't take my girl. She was a side piece. Okay, I'm just saying. All right, Adrian Broner, did you hit her? She likes it when you hit her. I'm just saying. Anyway, but let me say this, Canelo, you ruined everything. Canelo, everything. You ruined the Tim Tszyu fight. You ruined the David Benavidez fight. I never seen anybody ruin not one but two fights. Two. Shut the fuck up, motherfucker. I don't give a fuck what you got to say. Okay, you lost to Adrian Broner, motherfucker. Okay, you lost to Adrian, and he gave you a lot of problems, Broner. You lost to the man that moved up too. Come on. There you go. Anyway, Cal, you had a point to make?
I was going to ask you, is this a new thing to where we're reacting this type of way to a weight jump in a big fight? Because when it was, say, Bernard Hopkins moving up 2 weight classes, Antonio Tarver, Manny Pacquiao 2 weight classes, Oscar De La Hoya, there seemed to be like general intrigue, like big time intrigue for those 2 fights. Oh my God, we got 2 different champions from 2 different weight classes are going to fight each other. And particularly a fight like this, when it's undisputed versus undisputed, it's a good angle to play, right?
Right.
So is this a new thing to where we just, for whatever reason, it seems like people are reacting differently when it comes to this?
Let me answer that in this way. I'm not, because it's hard to say because social media hasn't always been around.
Right.
So since it hasn't always been around, shout out to Remy, by the way, Perfectista. I appreciate the support, brother. Shout out to Remy. So I don't know, but I could only go by the thing. Like, I remember when, like, I'm going to talk about this anyway, a lot of this stuff, but when fighters would move up in the past, we would see that as like, oh, wow, this guy wants to challenge himself. We just kind of assumed that the guy's moving up because he believes he could win that fight. And it's on the bigger guy to show him what's up. Like, no, you're not going to come over here and beat me, all right? But the smaller guy believes he could win that fight. That was always the perception anyway. When guys would move up back then. You know, like when Roy Jones moved up, nobody was like, John Ruiz is cherry picking. No, we were saying, damn, can Roy Jones pull this off? Like the angling was different. At least for me, I don't know what. Maybe you had a different experience when Roy Jones announced he's going to move up to fight John Ruiz, but over here it was more like a, can Roy Jones pull this off? I guess he's doing it because he believes he could beat him. That was, at least that was a conversation in the water cooler, if you want to call it that. Shout out to Carcino Paulie tripping. He 100% is tripping. All right, shout out to Carcino. But I don't know. I mean, what do you remember for the Roy Jones fight?
I remember intrigue just all around the board. It was just intrigue on if Roy can do it. Now, obviously, Roy was seen as the better fighter pound for pound, obviously. Right. So I think maybe that's what it is, that people see Canelo as the better fighter pound for pound and a guy's coming up. But like I said, people are saying Mel is a pound for pound top 10 fighter. So, and on top of that, if you look at the opening odds, from what I'm seeing, it's somewhere around 2-1 favorite for Canelo. Right. So that's close to 50-50. then a lot closer to 50-50 than some of recent Canelo fights as far as the betting odds, because they had Canelo a 5-1 favorite against Dimitri Bivol. Now, obviously that was wrong, but Caleb Plant, he was a 6-1 favorite. Same thing with Billy Joe Saunders. So they're giving Jermell Charlo a much better shot of winning this fight against Canelo. So I think the intrigue should be there despite the weight classes, particularly the amount of hardware that is going to be represented in this fight.
Yeah, look, I want to talk about fights. We'll just do one or two. I'll start with mine really quick. So we already mentioned Roy Jones, Ron Ruiz. That was one of them. So technically that was a two-way jump. It was a mega two-way jump because cruiserweight is a big distance from light heavyweight to cruiserweight, and then you fight a heavyweight. I remember when Bernard Hopkins, it was announced that Bernard Hopkins was going to fight Antonio Tarver.
And he was the underdog.
And I remember this was fresh off the Jermaine Taylor losses, controversial decisions, but nonetheless, he was coming off a loss. And I don't know if he had a fight in between that off the top of my head, but nonetheless, Tarver and Hopkins had already been talking about fighting each other, but there was already talks about him fighting Roy Jones, right? Moving up, but Roy Jones lost to Tarver. The conqueror of Roy Jones sat at the throne at 175 pounds, and Bernard Hopkins jumped up in weight. I remember their face-off, and I remember Hopkins telling him, Tarver is really good at rematches. Well, you're only going to get one shot. There's going to be no rematch. I remember he told him that. And he also told him, I don't want to hear any excuses because you made the Balboa movie. You told Roy, do you have any excuses? I'm asking you now. I remember that too. And he not only won Calix, he put on one of his best performances of his career. Yeah. Bernard Hopkins was phenomenal, knocked him down even. And Tarver looked halfway through that fight, looked lost in there. It was just he was just a technician in there, and it was one of my favorite Hopkins performances.
Yeah, and that would be one of mine. So I'll just go to my second one, and that would be when Manny moved up and fought Oscar, and Oscar was a 3.5-1 favorite going into that fight because it just came out of left field. And it wasn't a thing till Larry Merchant spoke it into existence. And then people started to think, those gears started to grind in people's head. And they're like, what would happen if that small dude who looks like, just a tornado in there goes up and fights Oscar De La Hoya? And then we end up seeing it, right? And it ends up being what it was. So this is two examples we've given in two big fights in recent history where the smaller guy won, right? And the smaller guy in both cases won dominantly. So it doesn't come without risk for the bigger guy either fighting these type of fights. But I think that's my favorite one of a two-weight class jump, what Manny did that night against Oscar.
I like that one too. Just because, I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming. I did not see Manny Pacquiao dominating De La Hoya for, 7 rounds, and then him retiring in the stool. I just did not expect that. I felt Manny could win, on points, just being too fast and beating him to the punch or something like that. But I just did not foresee that. And I could say De La Hoya looked flat. I could say whatever it is, but nonetheless, Manny took a risk moving up to weight classes himself. You know what I mean? And there was that unknown. What if he clips him with that left hook? And he's like a small dude and gets, you know what I mean? It's hard to think of that now because Manny campaigned at 147 for so long after that, right? That it's hard to imagine that, but just try to imagine, I don't know, Lomachenko moving up to fight somebody at 147 pounds, like a Keith Thurman, and just beats the hell out of him.
Yeah, it'd probably be a Keith Thurman would probably be a good a good, you know, I think that's probably what we would be looking at. That's comparable.
Yeah. And look, throughout boxing history, there was plenty of middleweight champions that moved up to challenge for the heavyweight championship of the world. That was a thing that was done. Also, you have a lot of there's cases where they were not successful. So I understand that it's not always a success. Cal Brook against Gennady Golovkin. I mean, he moved up to weight classes, and that one didn't work out for him. You could maybe argue that ruined his career. So
that one backfired. Another one that was successful, by the way, was Canelo moving up and fighting Kovalev. Now, Canelo had fought at 168 before, but he had moved right back down to 160. So he hadn't solidified himself as super middleweight yet. He was a middleweight, and he moved straight up to light heavyweight. It was in a tough fight with Kovalev. It was a tight fight until he got that stoppage.
Mikey Garcia moved up 2 weight classes to fight Errol Spence.
Yes.
That's something that isn't mentioned a lot. Okay, he had fought at a catch weight of like 144 something against Broner and won. But again, he went back down and then jumped up again. So I mean, look, obviously that didn't work out. Now the Cal Brook point is there is a risk the smaller guy takes when they move up, right? It's a big risk. So that's why you got to give Manny credit for doing that jump to fight Oscar, right? It could have gone south. Like if Oscar wasn't flat and lands a big left hook, and then maybe we don't even have a run of Manny. Maybe Manny's not the same again. Who knows? But just something to keep in mind. But the big one for me is definitely Hopkins against Tarver for sure.
Yeah, and the risk of fighting the smaller guy is you don't want to be the guy to lose a smaller guy. You're giving up some attributes with quickness, naturally with speed, but you don't want to be the guy known as the bigger guy who lost to the smaller guy. You just don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to do that. And look, in other sports, like look at the UFC, right? I know nobody wants to talk about the UFC, but really quick, George St. Pierre had a long layoff and jumped up to middleweight from his welterweight weight class to fight Bisping and won, right? Now, you could say that's just one weight class, but in the UFC, they're separated by like 15 pounds, right? So John Jones just moved up to heavyweight and won the heavyweight belt. So look, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And lastly, Calix, people don't want to hear it. Oh, how can we forget Henry Armstrong? None of this reminded me. Henry Armstrong was the featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight champion of the world all at the same time. Okay? Point blank.
Yeah.
Now, I do agree with Duran versus Sugar Ray, but Duran had like the 1 or 2 fights in between at the weight before he tested himself against Ray Leonard. But still, I mean, it's still like he was still a former lightweight that moved up to fight one of the greatest fighters of all time in Ray Leonard. I mean, just think about that.
I think Henry Armstrong's the guy, right? He's the guy most known for the weight jump, like the extreme weight jumps and being a champion in multiple divisions at once.
He should have been a 4 division if he was given a decision at middleweight, which many feel he should have won. But fun fact, there was 8 divisions. 1 belt was vacant in one of those divisions, and Henry held 3 of the belts. So almost 50% of all the belts were held by Henry Armstrong. That is astonishing.
Now, and imagine the amount of belts he would hold in today's boxing.
Jesus Christ.
Just imagine how many weight classes he would have ran through in today's boxing. It's unreal, especially if you can train yourself better today than you were back then.
You know how they make those like hangers that have like different hooks to carry the bags?
Yeah.
Aside from the grocery bags? You wouldn't need one of those to carry all those fucking belts. It's amazing. Right? But look, a big pet peeve of mine when people say, "Oh, the first ever undisputed," and they don't clarify of the 4-belt era. Because to me, Henry Armstrong was the undisputed champion of the world.
And shout out to Lee Groves, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw his tweet where he said this is the first undisputed versus undisputed matchup since 1974, and he can fact check me on that if that's wrong, but I think this is the first undisputed versus undisputed since 1974, and I think the first of the 4-belt era. So if so,
here's the question of the hour.
That's pretty historical.
Since y'all want it to be all technical and shit, right?
Uh-huh.
If they stripped Jermell before the fight,
yeah,
and Tim Tszyu is now the WBO champion, can they still call it undisputed versus undisputed?
That's the case I was bringing up on Monday. You know, if they do strip him, technically, if the WBO elevates Tim Tszyu to full champion before this fight on September 30th, which I don't think they're going to do. I think they're going to find a way around this because they've already dubbed this undisputed versus undisputed. That tells me that it's going to stay that way.
Oh, they can't do Tim like that.
They might though, D-Style. I don't know. They might come to some sort of agreement.
Look, I'm not going to tell Tim Tszyu what to do or his team, but I mean this when I say this, and this will be a short, right? I want everybody to listen to me. I'm not going to tell Tim what to do. He can do whatever he wants. His team can do what they want, but listen to me very closely, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, if they don't upgrade you or whatever the terminology is, if they don't, make you elevate you, whatever it is, right? Listen to me very carefully. Tim Tszyu's team, I'm not telling him what to do. I'm not telling Tim what to do. But if I was them, I don't pay a fucking sanctioning fee worth a damn for no interim belt. Okay, for nothing. I don't pay no 3% to nobody unless you elevate me as the actual champion of the world. You're not going to get a dime from me. It ain't going to happen. I would throw that interim belt to the trash. That's me.
Yeah. And that's what in men's boxing, yes, the first since 1974. I mean, that's a big deal. So, yes, I mean, when we play the technical game, D-Style, that's what I was telling you on Monday. I'm closely monitoring this situation with the WBO to see what they do because
I know it's going to make some calls, bro. Look like a motherfucker. It's undisputed because we say, okay, that's it.
But then there's going to be that technical thing. That's what I'm saying. To where
it doesn't really matter because his belt's aren't on the line. It's Canelo's belt's on the line.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just saying, but it is what it is, guys. Hey, guys, make sure you hit the like button. Some more topics we want to go ahead and tackle here. Boots Ennis is going to be fighting via. I like this fight. I like the fight a lot. Via, for those that don't know, I mean, he had a great performance against Reshidi Ellis. So Reshidi Ellis was expected to win, but the hard-hitting Colombian, got some big knockdowns, and that led to him winning the fight. It was a really close fight. I felt he did win. Thankfully, they gave it to the right guy, in my opinion. But to me, this is the biggest test that Ennis has had in a long time. Ennis has been fighting guys that were coming off losses. He's fought guys that just weren't all there. This guy's coming off a big win. He's confident, and he's looking to upset the apple cart. And he was campaigning for the fight too on social media. It was like everybody says that I saw. It was like months ago. I saw him post. They keep saying Boots can't find an opponent. Everybody's scared of him. I'll fight him. He said it would. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying that's why he got the fight, but obviously he got the fight. So what do you make of it, Calix?
I like the fight.
Oh, Venezuela, I apologize. Venezuela.
Yeah, he is from Venezuela puncher. And he's gonna force Boots into a fight. And this is gonna be, people keep asking me, what chance do I give Vila of pulling off the upset in this fight as an 11-1 underdog? I don't give him good odds. Why? Because how many times do we see historically talented fighters, talent level of a Boots Ennis, have back-to-back flat performances? We don't see it much. And to be honest, that performance in January was a flat performance from Boots. That was just not a good performance for him. And I think although Vila is going to have success against Boots early, he's going to hit Boots, but I think eventually that backfires on him, and this will be more of a fight that Boots will be comfortable with as compared to his fight in December where he had to go out and try to find the guy. This fight, he's not going to have to find him. There's going to be exchanges, and I think Boots, as time goes on, will be more favorable in the exchanges and will eventually get his stoppage in this fight. I think he's going to get a stoppage in this fight. But it's going to be a fun fight, and this is a step up for Boots. And I say this respectfully of Roy Monvila. Good fighter. I like him. And despite what happens on Saturday, I'll be looking for him in the future because he's an action fighter. He's entertaining. I don't need those guys to win every fight. I just think levels in this one. And this one is, as the fight goes on, as each round goes on, it's going to favor Boots more and more because I think he wants this type of opponent after the fight in January. This is a more favorable matchup for him in this fight.
Perhaps,
as far as looking good. As far as looking good.
Well, here's the thing. It's still a tougher opponent than the last opponent for sure.
Yes,
he cannot afford another flat performance. And also, one punch could change anything. Villa could hit. He could hit pretty hard. So I have seen Boots get hit. I mean, the fact is, he did get the best of the exchanges out of some guys early. But I don't think this is the guy. I think this is the fight where Boots needs to box more. This is the fight where he needs to avoid early exchanges because Villa can hit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you saw Ellis. He had a look in that fight like, what's going on here? He looked a little overwhelmed in the last few rounds of that fight. You know what I mean? So obviously, yes. And I agree with Lee Grove's statement. He's going to be there to get hit. No doubt about it. But I do anticipate Villa still having moments in this fight. And I do think he's going to test Boots some here. This is not going to be and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to be a first, second round knockout for Boots. I don't think he's going to blow him out of the water. Villa's coming to fight. I think Villa's going to give him some problems early on. And I think we're going to see the boxing side of Boots, the skill side. And I don't believe he's going to be exchanging with his hard hitter here. I just don't.
I think over time he will be, and he's going to be more aggressive. I just think
we'll see.
From the interviews I've been seeing, he's bothered by his performance and how it's been perceived in his last fight. And on top of that, I've seen a turn in how people have talked about Boots the past, I'd say, year and a half. Before it was like Nando has said in the chat, the red carpet was being rolled out for him. He's been sort of like this media darling of a guy who, this is the best welterweight prospect we've seen since the 80s and 90s. This is the best pound for pound talented fighter we've seen. These are Roy Jones. These are the type of things I've been hearing about him. And then over the past, I'd say 12 months, people seem to be getting frustrated with the obvious play here of just waiting for the belts to become vacant and not being very active. And his dad, Boozy Ennis, say, we don't actually have a written contract, a signed contract with Showtime. Well, why are you there? Why aren't you shopping around? Why aren't you more active? Why are you waiting for fight dates for a network you don't have a contract with? People are starting to get frustrated with the business side of it. Get active. Mow some guys down. Fight 3 or 4 times per year if you're not getting the fight you want. Stop sitting back and gnashing your teeth. Let's get some movement here.
No, I agree with you, Calix. And look, obviously, the movement's here. I mean, he's going to fight Villa this Saturday. It was announced in like 3.5 weeks before the fight, which is astonishing. So I don't know how long both fighters have known about the fight or whatnot, but I'm looking forward to this one for sure. However, it's not the fight I'm looking forward to the most. All right, Vergil Ortiz versus Stanionis. Let me just start off by saying this for the sake of consistency. I do not consider this a world title fight. Okay.
Right.
They're fighting for the regular WBA belt. Look, Crawford and Spencer fighting for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. Those are the only belts that matter as far as being a world belt. But I guess the WBA it's a secondary belt. It's no different than the IBO belt to me, or a WBC silver or something like that. That's what it is to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that to me, that's what the regular belt is. So take it for what it is. Speaking of step ups, this is a step up for Vergil. But Virgil's been a guy that they've been moving pretty good. He was very active for a while before it became a little inactive. Look, the pandemic hit. Then he had his illness, which brings on a lot of questions right? That we're going to get a lot of answers to, hopefully on Saturday, and hopefully for the good. If Vergil had never fallen sick and had to cancel the fights, if Vergil wasn't inactive, I would be so confident about this fight that I would put up my post-fight thoughts before the fight, about like if that was the case. Now I'm so confident, Calix, and just full disclosure to everybody. I am a Vergil Ortiz fan. I am high on Vergil Ortiz. He is one of my favorite fighters to watch. He has been for a long time. I've been enjoying the rise to promise. I do believe this will be his come out part. I'm so confident that it will be. I'm just not as confident as I would have been if it wasn't for the layoff and the illness, etc. I just think Vergil is a superior fighter to Stanionis. I think Vergil, anything Stanionis could do, Vergil can do better. I also think Vergil hits harder. I think Virgil's a better body puncher. I think Vergil has a better uppercut on the inside. I think the jab is debatable. But for mid-range and on the inside, I think Vergil's a better fighter than Stanionis. And that's where this fight's going to be fought. I think it's going to wear him down. And I think he either takes him the distance wide or he stops him late. That's how I see the one or two ways that I see this fight ending. I know you feel differently. All right. Talk to me.
This fight, I love this fight. God, I love this fight. And many people have said Spence versus Crawford is going to set the tone for the welterweight division. Well, those guys have been dancing around each other for half a decade. What I enjoy about this is Vergil fighting another top guy early on. Early on. He's not waiting a half decade to do it. There's no marination here. This, to me, sets the tone for the welterweight division. We're going to find out a lot of things on Saturday. Not Boots in his fight against Vila, although that's another top 10 matchup. That's number 3 versus number 9. According to Ring Magazine, this right here is number 4 versus number 5. And this is a dangerous fight for Vergil Ortiz. It just is. As Lee points out in the chat, Emilio Estevez Stanionis has a hell of a jab, and he works off the jab. There were 2 top 10 matchups at 147 last year. It was Stanionis versus Butayev and Crawford versus Avanesyan. And that's how weak this division has been. It's talented, it's deep, but not much has been going on. This fight right here is going to break us out of that. And it's going to break us out of that big time because I think this heats up quick. And one thing I'll say about Vergil is people try to box him into this caveman style. He's not a caveman. And the reason I know this is people make it out to be, oh, he gets hit, like fighters don't get hit.
Yeah, Nando.
Pay attention to where he's getting hit. He's getting hit on the inside. He's not getting hit when he's going inside. He's got that high guard. He's working his way in intelligently, and then he's going to work. And most of these exchanges that are happening on the inside where he'd like to fight, he's getting the better of. Okay, so there's a science to what he's doing. His offense on the inside is his defense. He wants to speed up the fight. And what makes this a dangerous fight is Stanionis is going to oblige all of these things. He's going to oblige all of these things.
Look, I don't want to be that guy that says, oh, well, everybody gets hit in boxing, right? So that's not my argument. It's just for the record. Of course, everybody gets hit. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the stats, like Vergil does not get hit like above the welterweight average.
Right.
Like is what I'm saying. And it does matter like how you get hit. So look, Mean Machine caught him with a nice clean shot and caught his attention, stunned him. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying he's above getting hit. I'm not making an argument that the guy's Willie Pep in there. Okay, like that's not what I'm saying. But for a aggressive style that he has, right? He doesn't get hit as much as people make it out to be for that style. Like you know what I mean? the guy isn't like he's getting like when he's on the inside, it appears that his opponent's hitting him as well. But you look at the leverage in the shots, all the leverage is on Vergil. The guys are just hitting him back because you know what I mean? But they don't have the leverage in the shots like Vergil does. That's what I see. You know, not all the time. Not everything's perfect, right? But did Mean Machine hit him any more than he hit Crawford? I don't think so. I mean, like I just don't see it like that. I just got to be honest.
I just think certain guys like to fight, and
yeah,
they want to get to the point. And Bud Crawford's one of those guys. We all know Bud Crawford has boxing ability to be able to stay away from some of these punches he's caught getting landed with, but there's some chess playing coming to that. He's tactically luring fighters into and making them comfortable and luring them into their demise. And in a way, I don't know if Vergil is luring guys into their demise. I think it's more he's forcing it. He wants to fight. He wants to get on the inside. He just wants to get to the action. And I think Stanionis is going to oblige all those things. To me, the big thing I'll be looking for is Stanionis does have a great jab that he works behind. So I want to see how Vergil is, because one thing I speak about is he's good at getting on the inside without getting tagged, right? So I want to see if he can do that in this fight against Stanionis, because Stanionis is a hell of a fighter.
So what we're saying is he doesn't walk into punches, right? When he's trying to get on the inside. He gets hit on the inside when he's landing the better punches on the inside.
He works behind the peekaboo style. He works behind the jab as well. And in that mid-range, he's got good upper body movement to where he's technically working his way on the inside. And then that's when he becomes the fighter. Now, what I like about what Vergil's doing as opposed to what Boots has been doing is they're not waiting for the vacant process to work out. Because it's clear that's what the Boots team has been doing, right? Is we're just going to wait for these belts to become vacant. And this is the problem I have with a lot of boxing fans is they feel like since Errol and Bud aren't fighting at the top, it freezes the whole division. Well, why? Since Keith and Danny Garcia haven't been serving themselves up as glorified gatekeepers, as names, as guys who are well beyond it and serving themselves up to the younger fighters for a payday, then they're stuck. But the problem with that is why can't guys in their 20s just fight each other? Why? I keep having people telling me Vergil and Boots can't fight each other. Why not? Why can't they? Why can't they? I just don't understand that. I don't buy it. Well, they need more time. It's too early. Why is it too early?
Well, let me give you some pushback on that. Let me give you some pushback on that. Here's what my argument always was, and I think it's a very sound argument. Now, granted, everything changes, but Crawford and Spence just fought each other. That's number one, right? Like they literally just fought. Like they haven't fought each other yet, but they just announced it, right?
Which we don't agree with.
There was an unknown for so long, and they're ever going to fight each other, right? And here's what I was saying, and I stand by it. When Crawford had a belt, and Ugas had a belt, and Spence had 2 belts, and then later Spence had 3 belts. And it doesn't fight for a whole fucking year. Crawford fights once in a year. My argument was, no, I don't want to see Vergil and Boots fight each other for nothing while these guys just sit along with the belts. That was my argument. No, Alex. Why should the Young Lions kill each other for nothing? For nothing. No belts on the line. Nothing. Well, these champions are not fighting each other. No. My message was, okay, well, in that case, how about Spence fight Boots for your IBF belt? He's the number 1. Hey, Crawford, fight Ortiz. He's the number 1 for your WBO. And let's get it on. That was my argument the whole time, right? Now, yes, now that Crawford and Spence are fighting, then yes, of course, Boots and Ortiz can fight each other at this point. Of course. But the circumstance, however, has changed. It was different before. My opinion, but I didn't want to see them fight each other for nothing, right? When that is a world championship fight. That's a world title fight right there.
And let's say it gets held up for another couple of years because we don't know how long this can be held up. We've seen the sanctioning bodies allow a guy to keep a belt for 800 days without fighting. We've seen Abner Maris keep a belt for 3.5 years without fighting in the weight class. How long? How do you know? And this is my point.
Okay. At least Crawford and Spence are fighting, though. They were not fighting.
No, I get that, and I understand your argument. Believe me, I understand it. It's a fair, valid argument. My pushback on it is this. I keep hearing the belts matter, the belts don't matter. Fighters make the belts don't make the fighter. Undisputed isn't undisputed anymore. Then if the belts don't matter, if they're that meaningless now, then why fight for it? Why does it matter anyway? If it fights for the belts, or if it's for Reggie's, or if it's for interim belts.
I think people say a lot of things, Carlos, but like
no, that's fair. But here's the thing: fight. Guys are in their 20s. Fight. It's that simple to me. Whether it's for the belts, it's for not for the belts.
Look, I'm okay with like Ortiz Stanionis is a good fight. Via Boots is a good fight. Those are good fights.
They're good fights. Look how long it took to make them, though. How long it took to make them.
Yeah, but look, Vergil was sick, brother. He had an illness, and like you know, it is what it is. But he's not like there's a difference between circumstance and behavior. Now, Boots, you could point to behavior, but Ortiz, it's not behavior; it was circumstance, right? So Ortiz has fought the Mauricio Herreras and Odio Orozcos and the Mean Machine. He's fought way better competition than Boots. I mean, I agree. So, and I'm not necessarily saying you're saying this, but I'm not going to put it on Vergil. And if somebody will say, "Oh, you're just being a Vergil fanboy," that's fine. But I'm not going to. It wasn't a behavioral issue with Vergil; it was circumstance.
I agree.
And I think we're seeing it here. I think the behavior of Ortiz is going to continue. Ortiz has been wanting the big names. He's been wanting the Crawfords, or he said he'll fight a Spence.
And they haven't been happening, is my point. They haven't been. I'm not blaming Vergil Ortiz for this at all. They're not happening for him. It's not developing for him. And the Rabdo happened, and the Rabdo happened again. That's all circumstantial, and it's thwarted where he should have been a year and a half ago. You know, that's beyond his control. But what I'm saying is these fights weren't scheduled, and that's not Vergil Ortiz's fault, but these fights aren't being scheduled and the division's being held up. And it's gotten to the point where finally in July 2023, we're getting meaningful top 10 matchups in the division. The welterweight division became the welterweight division. Why? The top two guys don't want to fight each other. It's paralyzed the division. Well, I'm tired, man. Like I'm sorry. I'm losing empathy for fighters. I'm tired of fighters waiting. Go out and make something happen.
Here's the thing. I need to correct this right now. He turned on the Bud fight. No, he didn't. Okay. The WBO president saying, "Oh, we're okay with Vergil fighting," but is not making the fight. It's not ordering the fight. If the WBO president ordered it, we would know about it. That's not what happened. And guess what? Trampler, I asked him on the Boxing Voice if Top Rank ever made any offers to Vergil Ortiz, and he said no. Mm-hmm. So that is what it is. Like at the end of the day, Crawford and Spence are holding up the division. All right? Yeah. Now, they are fighting each other now. Now that they're fighting each other, because my only argument was this. If Crawford and Spence are not going to fight each other, then I don't want to see Spence fight Thurman, who's had one fight in like 3-4 years, right? I don't want to see Crawford fight Rocha, like when he could fight Ortiz, right? And then you're going to make Vergil and Boots fight each other, like, and waste what could be a big championship fight down the line just because these guys don't want to fight each other. Now, granted, the circumstances have changed. Mm-hmm. So if Boots beats Villa and if Vergil beats Stanionis as I'm expecting, then yes, I don't have a problem at all saying, yeah, Boots and Vergil should fight each other. Because at this point, the top two fishes are fighting each other at this point for all the belts.
Yeah. The what I'm going to be told, though, is they have to wait for the belts to become vacant. That's what I'm going to be told. And then this is going to push back another year and then another year. And then it's going to become Bud versus Errol all over again. That's how this works. I just want to see movement. belts, no belts. Give me movement in these divisions. And I'm sorry, man. Errol and Bud not fighting each other at the top isn't a good enough excuse for these guys beneath them to not fight each other. It's just not. I'm sorry. It's just not. I'm not going to give them that out. I'm just not. Man, and by the way, they're both on the same timeline now. They're fighting on the same night. Let's get this going.
You don't want to do your best Tom Brady impersonation for these guys, huh? You don't want to pass it? No pass? No passes? No passes?
No passes.
No passes.
But I'll say this, though. This is a tough fight. It's a dangerous fight, and I like what Vergil's doing here because you and I we both like his pattern of behavior. He's definitely, they were going somewhere, right? And then Rabdo started to come into play. They were headed somewhere, and now we're back on track. And this is a dangerous fight. And both of these guys that are in those pictures right there, they fought. This is their second fight in 23 months. Both of them. Second fight in 23 months for both of them. So what I want to see is how long it takes for each of them to warm up. And I think that's another key factor here is they're both rhythm fighters, and rhythm fighters need activity. And this current part-time boxing era is not good for rhythm fighters. They need activity. And both these fighters are coming off of layoffs, second fight, 23 months. I want to see which guy heats up first.
Oh, yeah, 100%. All right. And look, we covered a lot. For those that came in later to check out our interview, I think it was some good stuff there. Make sure you guys check that out. Young kid, okay, Joel Iriarte, 17-time, national champion. And it's going to be turning pro. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. And of course, we touched on the Paulie Malignaggi statements and the two fights, the big fights in it with this weekend. I'm guessing you're going to watch the Ortiz fight if it's on at the same time, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the one I'm locked in on.
That's on the TV and the other one's from.
As soon as this fight got announced, and then appendicitis, right, for Stanionis, I think it got pushed back again. And I think that was due to the Rabdo firing back up. But I need these two guys in the ring because I'm still worried. It's Wednesday. I'm still worried that this fight, something will happen. And we need to get to Saturday.
Traumatized or something?
This is the type of fight, D-Style. As soon as it was being discussed, I said, yes, please make this fight. This is a fight. You hear us say this a lot, but I think it's true here. This is a fight of the year candidate type of matchup right here. I just think.
Look, I think it's got to heat up.
This fight has to heat up, and I understand Vergil's a 4-1 favorite, but I just think there's danger here. I don't think Vergil's going to come in here and just shine on this guy.
Let me just say, I'll let you continue, but I need to say this. I know you're anticipating a fight of the year candidate and all that, but I think it's going to be a wide decision or a late stoppage for Vergil. I don't think it's going to be that close. It's going to be fun to watch, but I don't think it's going to be that back and forth fight you're probably anticipating.
So you think it's going to be one of those things where a lot of people anticipate a matchup of the year, fight of the year, and it turns into a performance of the year type thing?
A lot of times when fighters mirror each other in terms of like aggression, the more technical guy, especially if they have a good jab, wins. If you remember Matisse against Provodnikov, people were expecting this like barn burner of a fight. It was a good fight, but Matisse boxed a little more. You know what I mean? Like he uses boxing a little bit. You know what I mean? But
Stanionis has a hell of a jab, man.
Oh, actually, before we go, something I want to play, and the chat hasn't heard it. You'll hear it right now. Okay, I'm sure Calix has heard it, but I'm going to play it anyway. I don't know what the hell's going on over there, Golden Boy. It just is what it is, I guess, at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and play this and get your guys' reaction here. Okay, let me get it ready. This is Bernard Hopkins, guys. Bernard Hopkins with the Spit Bucket Podcast. They posted this on Twitter. the Spit Bucket podcast. That you can find it here on YouTube if you want to watch the whole show. That they had a B-Hop, the executioner Hopkins on. As you know, Hopkins is with Golden Boy, and he had this to say about the Ryan Garcia fiasco. Hold on. What am I doing? My bad.
When Earl Spence said, "Where is the money going?" It reminded of modern day Bernard Hopkins. Mm-hmm. Because I haven't heard that since I said it.
Hold
That's
on.
a different clip.
Yeah, that's a different clip. But what am I doing? Oh, hold on. I was like, well, what is he talking about? Right? Okay, I got it, guys. My bad. Anyway, let's go.
The question is two-sided when it comes to, well, Ryan didn't get up, Oscar didn't get up. It was both body shots. That ain't the debate. The blame game and responsibility and ownership, that's the man.
That was my question.
Hold up. That's the man in Oscar. And that's the boy in Ryan. The boy and the man. We ain't talking about hair on your, you know what? We ain't talking about hair on your arm. That's pretty. We talking about how do you handle a situation of this magnitude as a man or as a whining boy, blaming everybody that you can blame. The question.
Well, there you go, Cox. What? And everybody heard it there. You guys want to give us your reaction, but bad look for Golden Boy. I mean, it's and Ryan responded, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but Ryan responded to that exact tweet. So
I think the ship has sailed, D-style. It's gone.
There's no saving this at all.
The bridges have been burnt, and it's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of how ugly this gets in the courts. And I hope, for the sake of everybody involved, that cooler heads will prevail. Someone will get involved that can see this through and get the teams, because Ryan has a team that's close to him, and then he has a macro level team. Then that's the guy you're hearing now, along with Oscar. And I hope they all can come together and see this through, because Ryan's got 2 more years with them contractually, but this is in the court system now. And it's clear at this point that things have been said that nobody can take back. They're just these. Everybody's been in situations like this, whether in business or personally, to where when something is said, there's no turning back, and we're there now. We're well into that territory now. We're there, and it's done. And there's no seeing eye to eye. There's no being in the same room anymore. If they're gonna move forward business-wise, which I hope they do, I hope this doesn't turn into an Andre Ward, Mikey Garcia situation to where these guys get shelved while it's in the court system. I hope they can work something out.
Let me read Ryan's.
They don't have to be in the same room.
Let me read Ryan's response to this. It was a clip on Twitter. I don't remember ever making an excuse for my loss. I just said that parts of my team showed they didn't have loyalty. That has nothing to do with the fight, only with integrity. Piaf trying to help Oscar. I never seen an attack on someone's own fighter by a promoter ever. Look, I don't know if this could be used in court or not, but it could be used as like a way of, like, I guess, saying, hey, they're not even trying to promote me. They're just bashing me on social media. Look how they're talking about me. It just can't help. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, whether it helps Golden Boy or not, I don't know. But it could only hurt. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to help. You know, so it's very, very interesting that Bernard Hopkins went on a podcast, and it's blowing up on Twitter already. So it's going to blow up. And people are starting to quote it, and Ryan responded to it. Hey, look, shout out to the Spit Bucket podcast. They got the interview, so shout out to them. But for Bernard, I don't know if this is a smart move. I mean, this sounds like a guy that's kind of maybe doesn't even care to keep Ryan.
I think it seems to me like he feels like he's being dragged down when there are videos of him talking to Ryan after the fight, being congratulatory, being, look, we'll get back from this. You'll be okay. And then he's sort of being thrown under the bus by Ryan and his team. And there's a clear fracture between Ryan, his family, his close team, his inner circle, and Golden Boy. And there's a fracture there. And we started to see this stuff on Fight Week when it came to Joe Goosen saying, you don't really coach or train Ryan, you work with him, or something like that, to the effect he said. So the bridges have been burned. The things have been said. There's no taking them back. We're there now. And I just hope Ryan gets his fights in. And that's all I'm hoping as a boxing fan.
I think what's hurting De La Hoya, and look, granted, I do think De La Hoya should have been at the post-fight press conference, right? But
he wasn't at Munguia's post-fight.
I don't. Well, I was going to say though.
Munguia was fine.
Well, what I was going to say was this: there could just be like I honestly don't know. Like, even though I've been watching boxing for years, and I don't even know like that's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, your promoter has to be there with you to console you after your loss. Like, I don't know if that's a thing or not, to be honest with you.
How many post-fight press conferences has Al Heyman been at?
Yeah, but here's the thing. What I want to say is this. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but it could be a situation where, remember when Isaiah Thomas didn't shake the hands of the Bulls?
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess Jordan was like, upset about it, saying, hey, you're supposed to congratulate. But Isaiah said, hey, when we lost earlier, I forget what team it was.
The Celtics.
The Celtics. Yeah, they didn't shake our hands. It's just the way it was, like. So I don't know, like for Oscar, it's like just like I don't know, this was like a big deal. I don't know, I had to be there. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, like I have to be there to console you, and like rub your back and stuff and say it's okay, Ryan. Like, I don't know if and I'm not trying to be funny or nothing, but I just don't know if that's a thing. Maybe guys that have been in a lot of press conferences in person over the years can answer that better. Maybe they can say, oh yeah, definitely. I've seen Aaron there all the time.
This is way deeper than a press conference. It's obvious at this point, right? It's way deeper.
Well, what I was going to also say is this: that I think
there were things going on before this.
What's possible is this, right? I believe, and Oscar alluded to it on their back and forth, right? When he's out here saying things like, I don't feel like my team looked out after me. It seemed like Tank's team cared more about me than my team. And then Oscar was like, what are you talking about? I told you not to take this fight with that rehydration clause. Mm-hmm. I told you basically, he didn't want to say it, but it felt like he wanted to. I tried to tell you weren't ready for the big stage. I tried to warn you that this was going to happen, but you wouldn't listen to me, right? You just accepted everything they gave you, and then you're over here praising them, right? And I think, and maybe that's what's bothering Hopkins as well. And like Hopkins was barred from being backseats apparently because he touched the back of Tank, because then they accused him of putting like some PD on him, like rubbing PD on him, right? And maybe he kind of feels like, man, these guys are assholes to us, and they A-sided the shit out of you, and they put you in a position where you were going to just lose this fight.
Yeah,
and I'm just talking from Oscar's perspective, and the guy that was telling you not to do it, you're going after me. Right. And now you want to leave my promotional company, right? We were the ones looking after you. And I think that's what it is at the end of the day, from Oscar's perspective. From Ryan's perspective, this is nothing new. Ryan, remember when he had that beef with Oscar, but he was like close with Canelo? Remember that?
Yeah.
And then Oscar was like left by himself in the ring, and he's over here like celebrating with Canelo, and Oscar was like in a corner by himself, like that one coach in that one college game, like he's just kind of like just there, like, you know what I mean? And then he's just kind of like, I say both sides, but Ryan, it's a pattern, bro. Like I don't know if, and when I say things like that, I know there's people listening. And I know, and like people like me that have criticized Ryan. I know it's people like me that certain individuals are talking about when they tweet stuff out like, well, I thought Ryan wasn't dedicated. And they'll show me a picture of that because he's training right now over there in Dallas. Like, You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, he's training.
He looked like he was training Harvard Goosen too.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. I pay attention to patterns, right? So what's gonna happen when he has a fallout in his new camp? What happens then? Right? Oh, but now he has Spence and he has somebody to look at that works hard. What, Canelo didn't work hard? He couldn't look at Canelo and say, man, that guy works hard. Like what didn't he have before that he didn't have then? He's already had an apparatus behind him, a camp behind him. Yeah. He's already had all that. So I don't know what's going to happen with Ryan, man. I don't. But I'm with you. I hope cooler heads prevail. I hope maybe it's Eric Gomez that steps in, talks to Ryan, talks to Oscar, say, guys, stop. Like, you know what I mean? We have to work together for the next few years.
You don't want to see dudes get shelved. You don't want to see dudes, especially when that dude is a walking payday. He could fight Raleigh Romero right now. And what does that do? 750,000 pay-per-view buys at least, right?
I don't know if they'll do it, but yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is he's a walking payday. And you don't want to see that dude get shelved. You know, we could talk about, I think his ceiling's much lower than people give him credit for, especially after watching the Tank fight. He's burnt a bunch of bridges. Reynoso, Canelo, he was with them. What are those guys saying about him now? And Joe Goosen, now he's with Derek James. Golden Boy, but Golden Boy also has a track record of being in beef with big name fighters and big name fighters wanting to leave them. So there's bad track record all around.
Yeah, for sure.
You just want to see them get on the same page and get this guy in the ring.
100%. But look, I do got to get rolling, guys. We do got to wrap this one up. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Watch the rest of the show if you haven't already. Hit that like button if you haven't already. This is D-Style Boxing, and we're out of here, guys. Peace.
Eleven, 10, 9, 8, 7.